Hi everyone, my name is Sudha Bhatia and I cover biology and environmental sciences at Amity University, Dubai. The module that we are going to talk about today is cell structure, cell organs and cell inclusions. And the main topic that we are going to cover today will be cell structure and the function of various organelles. Talking about a cell is a basic structural and functional unit of life. And irrespective of whatever life forms we talk about, all cells possess four common attributes. The first one being the outer membrane, the cell membrane, which is the boundary of the cell, followed by the genetic material, which guides the cell through its normal functioning, the cytoplasm, which is the jelly-like material of which the whole cell is made up of, and an activity called metabolism, the process by which the cells consume food, metabolize, and gain energy. Based upon the evolution process, cells are categorized into two types, prokaryotes and eukaryotes. When the life first originated on Earth, the first life forms that came into existence were the prokaryotes or the prokaryotic cells. They were comparatively simple cell structures, unicellular bodies, one single cell performing all the function. Their body primarily comprised of the central jelly-like cytoplasm, which we have spoken about earlier. The outer boundary was the plasma membrane, and the genetic material in a standard prokaryotic cell is present in the center of the cell with no boundaries. So basically it's a single cell, single life form performing all the functions.
Hello, my name is Dr. Vinod Kumar Shukla. I belong to Engineering and Architecture Department. My specialization is Information Technology. For today's session, we are going to talk about Introduction to Biometric System. So if you talk about biometric system, the biometric as a definition stands with the two different words. Bio is a word which defines the life. Metric is something, the measurement. So when we are going to combine these two different characteristics, the characteristic of life into some kind of measurement. So when we combine this with the help of some technology, somehow we can say, yes, we are talking about something biometric. And when we are going to translate this particular thing into some computer devices, that is how we can achieve the translation of biometric with some devices. I'm sure we have seen so many different examples which are very common to use today with the help of mobile phones, which are very efficient to talk about biometric technology. For today's session, I'm going to start with the two different characteristics of biometric. One is physical. Physical means that is somehow embedded in the human body. So when you talk about human body, we may talk about face detection, we may talk about iris, we may talk about palm, we may talk about finger. There are many characteristics which can be easily translated today to capture uniquely human characteristic, and which can be later on used for identification, either for verification. There are various other purposes which are there. Apart from physical characteristic, we can also talk about behavioral characteristic which can easily be captured by systems.
Hi everyone, welcome to the class of Introduction to Psychology. I'm Dr. Sonakshi Rohela. I'm the program head for Psychology and Behavioral Science. The beauty of psychology and how psychology is seen in general is that picture that you can see. A lot of people till date ask me, so psychology is all about lying down on a couch and having random thoughts in mind? Or do you have a pendulum that you rotate in front of my eyes so that you can hypnotize me? Well, psychology is a huge field besides only what is perceived in that diagram. Let's move to psychology and understand psychology vis-a-vis the definitions of it. So psychology is the scientific study of behavior and mental processes and how they're affected by an organism's physical state, mental state, and external environment. Looks very fancy because a lot of people think psychology is just face reading. Well, it's not. So psychology is going to talk about different aspects of thoughts, feelings, and actions, which is very important for us to note. It is the totality, the holistic approach of how our thoughts operate with our feelings or emotions and how they operate with our actions or behavior. Let's look in the next and see. We'll pick up scientific study. Now, when you talk about scientific study, there are three different aspects that you're looking at. One, a theoretical framework. Psychology has not originated out of nothing. There is a huge theory base that defines and categorizes behavior, feelings, action, human anatomy into different segregations, and there is huge research that goes into, and there are theories that are built over for something like a subject to generate.
Hi, my name is Vaishali Raj, and I am the program leader here at Amity Dubai for the fashion design program. I'm going to be talking to you today about the development of a portfolio for the fashion industry. It's a very glamorous and a very creative industry, a very competitive one at that. So I'd like to introduce today the first few steps of portfolio building so that we can move on and understand exactly what you need to put into that portfolio. Let's start by understanding what is a portfolio. A portfolio is a body of your work that shows your abilities and your strengths. What are you best at? What are you a specialist in? What do you have a passion for? It represents you and you represent it. So let's look at how important it is for you to get that next job of employment in the industry. It is like your resume. The first tip I'd like to give you is that only the best of your work must be included in the portfolio. It might sound obvious, but simply assembling a gallery of images of all your work and all your design images is not going to help the potential employer see what you are good at, what you are best at, precisely what you have to offer. So let's face the stark reality. Your portfolio is as strong as the weakest page in it.
Hi, my name is Amna Rafi Chaudhry. I teach landscape architecture at Amity University, Dubai. And today I am going to discuss with you how to create a plant palette in landscape architecture. Now, landscape architecture is a field which has numerous layers to it. It's a type of a subject which comprises of study of plants. It comprises the study of water, topography, and many other tangible and intangible layers as well, such as seasonality. So when you start combining all these aspects, and when you start representing these in any project, it becomes really difficult to show this very clearly. And the reason we create a plant palette is to create some clarity in terms of projecting any project. So when it comes to plants, there are a variety of plants which you are using in your design. So for example, you might be using seasonal plants, you might be using perennials, you might also be using succulents or evergreens or conifers, and there can be a plethora of type of plants which you are using. So when you have this much of a variety, they have to be presented in your project in a very clear manner. And that clear manner can be done in the form of a plant palette. Now, a plant palette is, if you talk about it graphically, it's basically a very clear representation of how you want to show your plants. It shows the different types of colors of the plants. It shows the different types of seasonality of those plants. It will also showcase the texture of the plants because some plants will have a very fine texture, some plants will have a certain type of texture at one time of the year, it will have a different type of a texture at any other different time of the year.
Hello friends, my name is Dr. Ashok Chopra, Associate Professor at Amity University. In today's lesson, I am going to cover the importance and significance of documentation along with the international commercial terms. The objective of this particular lesson would be understanding the role and significance of documents between buyer and seller, and second, between buyer and seller along with the government authorities or regulatory bodies, and the other part would cover us to understand the INCO terms, the international commercial terms, which are set of rules and guiding principles set by International Chamber of Commerce for the purpose of parties involved into international trade to understand the importance of these documents and at what precise location the risk is transferred and at what precise time the payment is effected from importer to exporter. So let's come to the first part of the lecture, which is the importance of documentation and significance of documentation in international trade. The international trade happens between the two countries of exporter and importer, and the law of land prevails in the country where you are operating from, and the law of the land is supreme in the country in which you are operating. And thus, it is important for us to understand the importance or significance of the documentation. The documentation first can be seen from buyer and seller or exporter and importer, and they help us to understand who is the buyer, who is the seller.
Welcome friends, welcome to my course, An Introduction to Financial Management. In this course, which would last around 45 minutes, I will take you through three different aspects of finance. To begin with, the definition of financial management. That would follow with the understanding of the various domains of financial management. And finally, we would explore the elements of financial decision-making process, which is the core of today's session. So let's begin with a basic understanding. What do financial managers or what do corporates in an organization strive for? We often hear the term value, but this term is not much understood. So today's session, we will try to look into the various decision-making process that a finance manager has to undergo in order to strive for value. Before that, let's understand what is finance. From different stakeholder point of view, finance may mean different to different people. To begin with, to some, finance might mean recording of transaction, which is termed as financial accounting. To some others, it may be analyzing cash flows, which is simply called financial management. And to some, it may also mean how money or finance or capital is raised in different forms, which falls under the perspective or domain of financial market. Well, it doesn't end here. It may also mean how to manage the future uncertainties or the risk, falling under the domain of risk management. And it may also mean to some people of managing investments done by a company in order to maximize their returns, which commonly is termed as project management. So just to summarize, finance can be financial accounting, financial management, financial market, risk management, as well as project management.
Hello, I am Dr. Senthil Velan. I am working as Assistant Professor in Department of Computer Science and Engineering at Amity University, Dubai. In today's class, we are going to look at an introduction about object-oriented software development. In the agenda, first thing that we are going to look at what are the problems with the traditional software development, because of which we move on to something called object orientation. Later, we will also define what is object orientation, followed by our major concepts that is part of object orientation. Finally, we will conclude by looking at the different phases of object-oriented software development. What is the problem with the traditional software development? The traditional software development focuses on functionalities, and if it's a bigger application, there are so many functionalities that is added to it, then the complexity of the software automatically increases. It is very easy to manage a limited number of functionalities compared to a huge number of functionalities. And another biggest issue is with respect to the data security. In functional software development, there is no guarantee that your data will be secure, because so many functions are operating on the data, and it is very difficult for us to have control on access of the data. And when we talk about complex solutions, there are lots of functionalities that you have to manage, group together, and it's a very difficult task. So let us see how object orientation has helped to solve these problems. So what is object orientation? Object orientation is going to create a model that is going to simulate the real world objects. Real world objects, for example, in a banking environment can be an account, a customer, a teller, or it can even be a bank.
Hi friends, I will be discussing with you international financial environment, some aspects relating to it, which are module 1 of the course titled International Finance and Forex Management in MBA semester 3. The contents which we will discuss are currency convertibility, on capital account and current account, balance of payment related aspects, whether it is balance of trade, whether it is current account deficit, what are the differences between the two, then foreign exchange reserve. These will be the 3 aspects which we will discuss together, and these 3 aspects are very closely related with each other. That is the reason these 3 are identified for discussion in one session. So we start with currency convertibility. What exactly is convertibility? When we talk about currency convertibility, it is the relative ease or difficulty with which a country's currency can be converted into another currency. Currency convertibility is extremely important, you will appreciate. In international trade, whenever we are buying goods from outside or any foreigners are buying goods from our country, they need to convert the currency. We also need to convert the currency. It is very crucial for growth and development of international trade. When a currency is inconvertible, it poses a risk and barrier to the growth of trade of that country. And trade, as you know, is very important for the overall economic development of any country. Now, currency convertibility, as global trade continues to increase currency convertibility, it has certain aspects which are very important. Convertibility is so critical to trade that without convertibility, trade is not possible. You will appreciate that. Now, government restrictions can often result in a currency with low convertibility. So, if convertibility is so important, why do governments restrict the convertibility? This is something which we will look into.
Good afternoon everyone, my name's Gary Smith and I'm in the Management and Commerce faculty here at Amity University. Today I'm going through the Lean Canvas with you. The Lean Model Canvas is used with and in place of a marketing plan, particularly for startups. So it's a very easy and informative way of getting students to actually look at the sections individually but all on one page, so they're literally working off the same page. We use this in group work, particularly for marketing, business, entrepreneurial work, innovative and general business and commerce, because if you're looking at making a plan for a startup, traditional marketing theory and practice is probably not as effective as this. So these are numbered for the use. The first one is customer segments. You have to know who your customers are, literally. So your customers will be the early adopters if you're looking at the diffusion of innovation model. It would be the people that you would target first. You can't say that your customers are everybody. You are not Coca-Cola. You're looking at the first people that would be your customers. And when we talk about customers, we mean people who will pay for your product or service. We're looking at your ideal target customer. So we would get our students, whether they're MBA, whether they're BBA, whatever level this works, because you're targeting your ideal customer first. So you focus on that particular demographic.
Well, you're watching School TV. My name is Megha Sharma and this is a lesson in biology. We are currently focusing on viruses and why they are bad for us. Well, of course, when we talk about viruses, we talk about why they are so ineffective. Of course, they are very bad. Very few of them are very good for your body. But viruses can make you and people around you, of course, we talked about the fact that they make you sick. They cause so many diseases, right from cold sores to rots to measles, colds, flu. The diseases are so many. They can also be very contagious, and that is why they end up spreading very quickly from one individual to another individual in a very short span of time. Now, they spread in the air, in the droplets that are formed, and that's why people end up taking that sneeze from surfaces. In fact, like when you're actually opening the door handles or actually touching the telephones or mobiles, which is why it is so important to use handkerchiefs when you're sneezing or when you have a cold. Now, viruses are one big question mark. And why is it so? Because scientists go crazy trying to classify them time and again, whether in fact they are living beings or non-living beings. Now, here's a big question mark, and we're trying to figure out whether they are in fact living beings and non-living beings, and why is it that such a differentiation is so difficult. You're watching School TV. My name is Megha Sharma. Of course, we are having these biology lessons in these series that we are talking about. And today, we are talking about glands and how they are so important for our human body to function. So the endocrine system, in fact, has endocrine glands which keep the quince, which is Greek for secretions, inside the body. And similarly, you also have the exocrine glands, which like the salivary glands or the sweat glands, which we spoke about earlier, which throw stuff outside your body. So one more difference between these two is that the endocrine system glands do not have ducts, which means that the stuff that they secrete mixes with the blood, and as usually at a different place from where it was secreted from. It is not localized, and then the exocrine system glands usually have the ducts which secrete stuff outside the body and usually at the site where it is produced. It is localized. I hope the difference is now clear. Now, the endocrine glands produce some other hormones as well. All of us at some time or the other have butterflies in our stomach. Now, be it just before an important exam, or when you're taking part in a race, or even when you're actually watching a very scary movie, or when you are, say, in a roller coaster ride in a fun theme park. Now, can you actually remember the changes that have actually happened in your body at that particular point of time? Your heart starts beating really fast, your eyes end up opening really wide, you become really, really pale, and you start breathing heavily and faster.
Today we are going to investigate why lemons are sour, and let's also understand why soaps are slippery. As we do this, we will get into a more quest of humankind's obsession to classify things. Like chemistry is all about study of matter, and there is so much matter all around us that we will be overwhelmed if we don't classify this matter. Till now in chemistry, you have already classified matter in multiple ways. First, you classify them as elements, mixtures and compounds. Then you classify mixtures as homogeneous and heterogeneous. On the other hand, compounds are classified as covalent and ionic. Don't forget, we also classify matter as solid, liquid and gases, and also as suspension solutions and colloids. So to add on to our obsession of classifying things, we will classify it in one more way, and we will call that acids, bases and salts. Have you ever wondered, are all acids corrosive? Are amino acids really acids? What about vitamin C? It is an acid or is it a base? What about all the pH balanced shampoo that you see in supermarket? What is the color of the Statue of Liberty? Has this been the color always from the time when France gifted it to USA? How do you exactly go about treating or a bee sting? What has happened to the Taj Mahal? Are cola really good for teeth? And what exactly are we tasting when we taste something which is bitter, sour or sweet? We will get answers to all these and a lot more by the time you finish this chapter.
We have this special element that floats around on Earth, something you cannot see, but you can feel, something you can swish your hand through, and most importantly, it allows all of us on Earth to breathe: air. We've given a fancier name though to this blanket of air, the atmosphere. And much like a blanket that you snuggle in to feel nice and warm, the Earth's blanket also plays an important role in keeping the temperature in its place. This blanket that we call the atmosphere has many gases in it that are necessary for us to be alive. And also something really interesting is the part near the surface of the Earth. That's about where we are, has more air than the part above where we are going to go.
So this is a cell, but I don't have any idea what it is, you know. I look at it and I see a cylindrical thing. One side I see that there's a plus sign, and on the other side there's a minus sign. So there's a small button kind of thing on top of the plus sign. Let's now have a look at what this small cylindrical thing has to do with the concept of electricity. To understand what a cell has to do with electricity or the concept of electricity, you have to create a picture or an idea of what an electric current is all about. What exactly is an electric current then, and what does that mean? So let's say you see a river which is flowing down the mountains and it's going really fast, just like the Ganga in Haridwar. Now you see the water has a current in the flowing direction. So this means that if you put your shoe in the river, then the shoe is going to be pulled in the direction of the flowing water. You can feel that the current is in that direction. Now if you see the water, it looks smooth and normally, but if you really zoom in and start watching like shown here on your screens right now, then you will see small balls of water banging against each other and flowing in the same direction. Now if you want to replace balls of water with balls of air, then you get an air current, or what we normally call wind. But now if you change the scale and come back to some real life objects, for example, take a tennis ball and put them in a pipe and let them all start moving in the same direction. When you walk on a street, you see a pillar, right, with 3 colors sometimes. So what does this do? Well, it tells you what to do. It shows 3 colors, red, amber and green. Red means to stop, amber means ready, and green means to go. So let's take a situation for a speeding truck. When the traffic light is red, it's a signal for the truck to stop, and simultaneously for the pedestrians, the light goes green, telling them that they can now cross the road. So the question arises, why don't we directly go from red to green? What does the amber light really do? That is because we all need a little bit of notice. Imagine if it goes directly from red to green. Then a man crossing the road might just get stuck while crossing. Now if you want to imagine there were long sentences written on the roadsides, it would bother you to read these sentences while driving, right? That's why it's better to use signals. Have a look at this. Is this a parking spot? Is construction work happening here? Now, does this stand for a school? Is this the sign to stop? This is the speed limit. It's the highest speed through which a vehicle can move on a particular stretch. So what is this sign? This is a one-way sign, and this one is a U-turn. It's very useful when you have gone to the wrong side. As roads are for vehicles, you often see lanes on the sides, right, which are for pedestrians to walk around. And when you want to cross the road, then you need to look for these patterns. This is called a zebra crossing. So next time when you're on the road, be sure to remember these rules for your safety.
Hi guys! For this video, I'm going to show you my own note-taking method inspired by the mind map technique. I have been through most note-making methods, and I can assure you that this was the one that worked best for me and will work wonders for you too. You can use it either you are in high school or grade school. So let us first start with the introduction to mind maps.
Making mind maps and charts is easy. Just grab whatever book or notes you want to summarize and write the title of the chapter or subject on the top of the page. Some people prefer to write it in the center, but I think this leaves with much more room for writing and drawing. Be free to draw doodles that relate to your subject. Studies have demonstrated that studying while referring to representative images of your material actually makes your brain memorize that material much faster. Use arrows to create a hierarchy between information. Conclusions and consequences go under the boxes, and parallel information or comments go either on the left side or the right side. I guarantee that when done well, these mind maps can summarize more than 20 pages of a textbook in just one chart. It's the perfect tool to memorize keywords without losing the sense of the relationship between them. The fact that you get an overall view of your material just by looking at one page actually makes that subject a whole lot clearer, and you can just study these charts the night before an exam without having to sacrifice your precious evening on a cramming session. Try to omit any irrelevant information, shorten your words whenever possible, and use acronyms for overly repetitive long terms. Subjects like history have a lot of timelines and dates to memorize, but you can easily incorporate these into your mind map as well, while also referring to other information. Always remember to make it short and simple. As you can see, you can actually incorporate tables into your mind map. Try to do a shortened and smaller version of a more complete table by only writing down keywords. Draw an arrow that points toward the table so you can understand what is table referring to.
How it works? Yes, to know this, let's understand our brain structure. As you can see, our brain is divided into two parts, left brain and right brain. Left brain performs functions like linearity, maths, sequencing, logic, language and analysis, whereas our right brain performs functions like imagination, creativity, dimensions, holism, colors and rhythm. Yes, we can use both sides of the brain simultaneously when we use whole brain way of learning.
The brain has two main hemispheres, the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. The left side of your brain controls movements on the right side of your body, and the right side controls movements on the left side of your body. The left hemisphere is more logical and organized, and the right side is more creative and emotional. Let's look at more details of the left hemisphere of your brain. It is more logical and it performs the exact math and science computation problems. In addition, the left side of your brain handles many of the duties of speaking and pulls facts from your memory. The right hemisphere of the brain is creative and emotional. It helps with art and music and helps with spatial awareness. The right side helps make sense of what you see and also helps with face recognition.
My dear friends, there are some important points to remember. Number 1. Mind map must be done using lot of colors. Number 2. The main branch should always be written in capital letters. Number 3. The more practice, the more perfect we become in doing mind maps. So friends, if you like this video, please give thumbs up and subscribe for more related videos. And do visit our website www.onlysuccess-me.com. Thank you.